Alright, so this is the BlackCrown Flames. I have not heard this song yet, and we're just going to start pulling it up and seeing what we can do, if we can make this into a song. Um, this is again one of the Cambridge, sorry I'm blanking, Cambridge multitracks. If you just do a search for Cambridge multitracks, you can find a ton of free multitracks to practice on. So, alright, so we're recording, and here we go. Alright, so the first thing I always like to do is take off the auto read. That way, and I learned this from Tom Lord Alge watching Mix with the Masters, if I have a track that has automation on it, then I'm going to have read on. Otherwise, it's off because there's no need to have it on. So I can quickly glance and determine what's going on. Alright, so this has got a bunch of stereo tracks, and usually I'll break those down into mono tracks. We have kick mic 1, kick mic 2, kick out. So 3 tracks of kicks. So let's see, we're going to put the kick on 9. Put the next kick on 9. And the kick out on 9. And I'm going to have to solo through Pro Tools to hear what's going on. That sounds like a very snappy kick. A little lower. Okay. So what I'll normally do with something like that is see if I have any samples. And I don't, but this kick right here almost sounds like a sample. So really I could either bring down the kick out a little bit, and something is sounding out of phase to me, so I'm going to start testing for phase. I'm just going to use the trim plugin for right now. Once I arrange it, I'll probably put the SSL channel strip 2 on it. But for right now, let's use this. It's probably going to be the kick out. Yeah, hear that difference? Okay, here. Let me turn this up a little bit. See, hear how kind of hollow sound that is? Now I'm going to flip it out of phase. And there's my kick. Okay, so that's it for the kick. I'm going to play with the snare now. I've got snare 1, snare 1 down, snare 2, and snare 2 room. So let's start with putting the snare on 10. And you know what, because I've got this trim going on kick out, I'm just going to go ahead and flip the polarity of it. Let's take a look at it real quick. Well, that's interesting because it's saying that it is in phase, but It's late, really, what's happening, because it's outside the kick drum. So it almost sounds like it's not in phase. So I'm going to go ahead and just flip it. That way I can remove the plugin. Go with invert, render. And then I'm going to say kick out. And I think it's Shift Option O. Gives me the phase sign, the phase symbol. And then I can take this off. I'm going to double check it again just to make sure I haven't lost my mind. I'm going to flip it again. Yeah, it's still very hollow sounding. So I will undo that and I'll keep it flipped. Yeah. Okay. So moving on to the snare. Do I have any snare hits? Wow, this snare is super quiet. Snare up 1. Snare 1 down. I don't know what that means. Find out. Oh, that's the bottom snare. Snare 2 up. Interesting. And then this snare room, which is stereo, which I'm going to leave alone for right now. So because it's all coming down the same channel, I can't use the board to check the phase. But I'm going to do the same thing here. And you can either do a search or you can, however you want to find it. Not much there, but I bet you we're going to have more on the down. Oh, because this was snare up, this is stereo. Sometimes you'll get a bunch of different stereo and mono, and you got to decide if you're going to split them or not. I probably will. Okay, so that's definitely in phase there. And let's see. And really all I'm doing right now is just trying to get a home for these things. The snare room will go, usually in 13 and 14 is where my rooms go, but I'm having problems with 13. But I'll take that. That's working pretty well actually tonight. You never know. Okay, so next, overheads. See this overhead here? I'm going to split it into mono. I'm going to hide and make inactive. And this guy is going to go to 15, and he will go to 16. So let's check that out real quick. Now on this, I'm going to check the phase on the board. On the phase, it's good. Okay, so what else do we have? Overhead. Drum room stereo. And a mono drum room. These will both go to 1314 as well. There's not many tracks. That's nice. Like I said, there's not many tracks on this. So I'm going to say I might be splitting this thing out a lot because I have the room to do it. Alright, so let me check out the bass now. Here's the DI. There's the amp. Okay, DI, DI. We have two DIs here, it looks like, on the guitars. So I'm going to make that inactive. And bring this over here, and we have electric guitar amp 1, guitar 1, DT amp, DT DI, electric 2. So sometimes you just have to kind of throw them up and see what's going to happen. So I'm going to put this in 25 to start with. And let's hear a guitar. And then put this one in 26. So that might be my stereo guitars. Then I have stereo guitars here. I'm not sure what this is. Something down here. So I'm going to split that. Let me move my lead vocals first. Drums, vocals, bass goes last. Just because of the way the board's laid out. And okay, so I'm going to split this guy into mono. And hide that. And split these into mono. Hide, make inactive. Alright, so I'm going to put you on 27 and 28. And we can do 29 and 30. So let's see what's on 27. So I'm kind of like synthy guitar. And then down here, okay, so I'm going to change this. I like these guys being on 27 and 28 because those are fun. Those are nice, thick guitars. These pad things, this is where I'd put the pads are like 31 and 32 sometimes if I don't have enough tracks. But this looks like I've got plenty of tracks. And this says electric guitar DT DI, DT amp. So let's hear this one just to rule it out. It's probably a DI. Yep. So that's what a DI sounds like. I'm going to hide these. And vocals, I've got 3 vocals. This is getting like to be a super simple song. I'm going to stick this on 19 and 20, kind of similar to what we did with Zeno's Signs. On the chorus was like lead, it was labeled lead vocal, but it was actually a chorus. So that's really it. The snare up, I could put anywhere now because I've got so much open space. So I'm going to, let's see, there's a hat. I'm going to stick the hat on 7, where my hat usually goes. I have some toms. Look at that. I have 4 toms. Nice. So the toms will go to 11 and 12. And I'll choose the stereo so that I can pan them within Pro Tools if I need to. So really it's this stereo snare, it looked like. Snare 2, that was it. And it's almost like it's a room sound, but I'm going to stick it on 1 and 2 until I figure out what I want to do with it. Alright, so that is our session layout. So that's the first thing I do, is kind of just go through and arrange it how I like to see it. Sends I don't need to see, so I'm going to hide those right now. And I'm going to go ahead and insert on all the channels. SSL native channel strip 2. This sounds really good. And I can compare it against the real deal, and it's sounding really nice. So we're going to leave that there. I still may move some channels around, but I think that's a good place to start.